Welcome back to the John Fredericks Radio Network. Time now is 8:30. On the line with us, a good friend, General Tom McInerney. General, good morning. Welcome to the show. You're on with Colonel Mike.
Good morning. Good morning, Colonel Mike. How are you doing today?
Great, sir. Nice talking to you. I haven't spoken to you since the last season. I think I'm changing my name to Vivaldi, the 4 seasons. I come once every season. So
great.
I would like to speak, sir, first a little bit about, we haven't spoke since, I guess, Admiral Lyons back in December. Our good friend passed away. Today is the Mueller report. We have news on the Mueller report today, but most important, let's talk a little bit about the deep state and the real collusion, which is the Brits and some of the EU people involved with this Russia collusion, which basically everybody's looking at Russia and nobody's looking at China. So, General, take it from there. Let's talk to the audience.
Well, first of all, the Russian collusion was done by the Democratic Party and the Hillary campaign, as well as the Obama administration. Our listeners ought to understand that. Now, will the Mueller report say that today? I don't think so. That's got to be a follow-on report. But it's important the American people understand that the Obama administration and the Hillary campaign and the DNC and the Democratic members up on the Hill, committee chairs, etc., were involved, as well as the mainstream media, with this massive Russian collusion hoax that was planted on initially the Trump campaign so he wouldn't win. And then once he won, they continued the follow-up to try to get an impeachment, which would be a soft coup d'etat.
Would you say that's like a psych ops operation, General?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Colonel Mike. And that's why it's important that the American people understand this. Because when you have corruption in the intelligence community, the IC as we call it, that's the CIA, the DNI, Director of National Intelligence. When you've got the Department of Justice, that's the Attorney General, that's the FBI. You have the core makings, and well as being supported by the mainstream media and Democrats on the Hill, you have the core makings of the end of our republic as a great nation. And that's why I know a lot of people are going to wonder, well, why are you saying all these things? Because it's clearly evident. The Mueller report is going to show there was no collusion with the Trump campaign or the Trump administration. And then they're going to have snippets in there about was there obstruction of justice. The President of the United States cannot have any obstruction of justice when he is doing what the constitutional authority assigned him to do, which is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I took that oath when I signed up in the United States Air Force. And the fact is, the President has that oath. So anything he did to counter false publicity from Capitol Hill by Democrats, by the mainstream media, or leaks that were coming out of the Mueller Commission were clearly authorized in that part of his role as the commander-in-chief to support and defend the Constitution against the United States, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, Mike.
I understand that clearly. General, I understand that clearly as foreign and domestic, but obviously we have a lot domestic. Now, I was just telling another caller a little bit ago, you remember back then what happened in Peru, Alberto Fujimori. They took him out, and then they took his intel people out. We did that in a third world country. We pushed for it because of what was going down in Latin America. And yet in our country, no one's been indicted, no one's been subpoenaed yet who's involved in this soft coup. Okay? And I agree with you 100% about the demise of the republic. If this continues, we don't have a republic. They can't just keep fighting. Listen, the obvious is he won. Let the 4 years go by. You think you got a shot, try it. See you in 4 years, But what this president's been doing for this country with regards to the economy. Also, General, I mean, we keep talking about Russia collusion. Who was in this bigger than anybody was the Brits. This guy that was the Russia specialist, right?
Right.
We're not talking about our allies.
Their equivalent, Mike, was their equivalent of the NSA,
right?
Our National Security Agency. It was called the GCHQ, and they were feeding information into the CIA, Brennan, into the DNI, Jim Clapper, and they were then taking this false information that they knew it was false because they, on Carter Page, was the initial target, and then Pendropoulos. But the fact is, that's how they put it into the intelligence community without verification. And they put the Russian dossier in there, which was created and funded by Hillary Clinton and George Soros and the Democratic National Committee. So they laid all this stuff in to look like we were getting foreign intelligence sources that was going to demonstrate that there was collusion by the Trump campaign. It was masterful, except Mueller never looked at this, and so that's not going to come out today. But the new Attorney General Barr will, and what it is going to show, those people must go before a grand jury. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, because Barack Obama was being briefed on this in his president's daily briefing called the PDB. So he was well aware of it. So it goes right into the Oval Office, the corruption that was going on. Nobody challenged the Russian dossier, and 4 times those FISA judges approved that. Now, that means we have corruption on the judicial side. We're talking about corruption on the executive side, the president and the intelligence community and DOJ, and we're talking corruption on the congressional side.
Well,
so
General,
we have a major problem.
General, back in the days of Watergate, there was only a break-in and people went to jail. They
Correct.
didn't try a coup. It was a break-in.
And that's why this is so dangerous, Colonel Mike. Your listeners must understand we have never seen anything like this in our history, and it must be examined because we never should have had a special counsel. So that means the person who did that, Rod Rosenstein, the Assistant Attorney General, is corrupt. He's got to justify why he did this. Mueller never should have taken that role as a special counsel because he knew that it was corrupt. He knew the day he took over and the team he assembled that there was no Russian collusion. That will be proven. So you see why this is so dangerous.
Well, he was there for the cover-up. He was there for the cover-up.
Correct. He was part of Fusion One, the selling of 20% of the U.S. uranium assets to the Russians. And that's why they were all trying to cover this up, because they did not want President Trump to get in office and start looking at all these things.
Correct. But, he's got to clean, we spoke about it when Admiral Lyons was alive. He said, you got to clean house, you got to clean out the agencies, you got to take out the top floor of the FBI. We're in dire straits. People, they're looking at this like either it's boring or it's interesting, but they have no idea how dire straits we are as a country and as a republic. And I couldn't agree with you more. And it's not because of my position politically, just as an American, looking at this as an American saying, hey, wait a minute. We have people in jail that steal candy bars. We got people in jail that steal cars, okay? And these people are insider trading. They're trading uranium. Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, the billions of dollars that went through there, the laundromat that it was, and nobody's getting indicted. By the way, General, they're all talking about collusion. Do you remember when China hacked the OPM? They hacked everything. Yeah. They know everything about anybody who's worked for the government. And we sit back and we laugh and we go, they're a great trading partner. Trump is wrong in fighting them. He's correct in fighting the trade war with them because they cleaned our clock for so many years.
Exactly. And then you look at the Iranians, where we gave them $150 billion, I mean, which is funding increased terrorism in the Middle East. And the president got out of that. And yet you have these Democratic candidates running and saying that they'll reinstitute the JCPOA. This is insane. You have these people talking about democratic socialism. It is communism, Colonel Mike.
There's no such thing as exactly
democratic
socialism.
Exactly.
But they're not talking about why we went to Syria, why we over $5 billion with Victoria Nuland's State Department and George Soros money to overthrow the Ukrainians, so who could become a CEO of a natural gas pipeline? Joe Biden's son? Is that what we did? Did we do the same thing in Libya, General, so that Sidney, whatever his last name is, Hillary Clinton's guy, can get in there with some pipe and do a pipeline and to help the French take over? Remember, if you remember, General, Silvio Berlusconi was the prime minister at the time. He just wound up giving them $1 billion in reparations from World War II, and he was trying to hold off NATO and the French and us about invading Libya. Remember? He was like, hey, I just paid this guy reparations. Come on. They were close relationship, right? And a week or two later, boom, we attacked Libya. Berlusconi was out, and the war was on. And Benghazi happened, and everybody forgot about Benghazi already, It's just, you can't just have a short attention span. Anybody that belongs behind bars is probably the Clinton people.
Right. But they must go in front of a grand jury.
Absolutely.
To include the President of the United States.
No, you have to have a grand jury.
This is distasteful. I know people do not want to do this. I have heard certain people owning television stations that are Republicans. And they say, well, we don't want to do this.
Well, we do it everywhere else in the world.
We must do it, or it will be repeated.
Listen, we do it everywhere in the world. We force countries to do it, right? We go in there and we threaten them. We threaten them with sanctions. We threaten them with trade. If you don't do this. How many times did we do it in Panama? How many times did we do it in Latin America? Correct? So if we're going to go out and poke our finger, or as they say in the Bible, put the plank in the eye, right? Then you're going to have to clean up your own house, because I have friends around the world that I talk to all the time by phone or email, and they're like, you used to come here and point your finger in our eye about our corruption, but your corruption tastes better. It's like we can't go around and say we're a democracy or a republic if we don't clean up this problem. General McInerney.
Yeah, now here's what, let me quickly give a summary of what the people should look today. If the Mueller report does not do anything about what you and I have just talked about how they concocted this Russian dossier and the Russian collusion issue, then, but there'll be a lot of talk about the obstruction of justice, and the Democrats are going to do this to take our eye off the target. The eye must go on how the Democratic Party, the Obama administration, did this, and I believe if President Trump releases those FISA warrants, it will clearly show to the American people the corruptness of the Democratic Party and that Democratic administration, and that they would not have won the midterms. So it's imperative that the president release those FISA warrants ASAP after this report. And you'll also see that Mueller does not talk about what you and I are talking about, which shows his corruptness.
The other thing, General, I think we need to call up the UAE and tell them, just like we do with other countries, we want to see the bank accounts. Because I'll tell you what, there's got to be a lot of people in this country, just like in Pakistan and India, who are holding billions of dollars offshore. The new Switzerland is Dubai. You know it and I know it. And there's got to be billions of dollars out there, I'm sure.
Well, no argument there. That's another subject, but you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I mean, that, when the money was moved to Iran, everybody got a little bit of taste of the pizza pie, you know what I mean? General McInerney, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, sir, and I hope to have you back on a lot sooner. It's a shame that I'm only on every season, but we'd like to have you on again, and I hope you're on with John soon, too. And I wish you well for your wife. How's your wife doing, sir?
She's doing great now.
Well,
Thanks,
then
Colonel Mike, for asking.
you have a great happy holiday, happy Easter weekend.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, sir.